I mean, probably brings us quite nicely onto LLMs, learning new things. Obviously, AI is the talk of the town. It's everywhere you turn, seemingly. There's an AI conference, there's an AI podcast, there's someone across the desk talking about AI, or we're using it day to day, right? Everyone's using it. I'm using AI day to day. So, um, LLMs within software development, certainly within, I guess, just generally software development, but financial services and other kind of domains that you've worked in specifically. I mean, how are LLMs kind of impacting, I guess, software development in general?
I don't think they've had the full impact they're going to have yet. Now, you've got to be one of the things that LLMs are not the answer to everything. They solve a bunch of problems that were hard to solve before, but they come with a bunch of caveats, right? One of the, for example, there's one of my jobs here where I'm working right now. When we're looking at LLMs, is going, which problems are they applicable to? Which problems do they help us solve, and what are the downsides? So here's some simple downsides, right? Compared to a neural network, right? LLMs are dog slow. They're really expensive and slow. Right? Compared to a traditional program, they're inconsistent. You run the same query, you run the same prompt through an LLM, and you get different answers each time you run it. Even when you start fiddling with the controls you have, getting a consistent answer out of an LLM is difficult. But it can do tasks that are really hard to do in traditional software. Take this block of text, summarize it, right? Or tell me whether the speaker is positive or negative against an idea in this text, right? So there's a whole bunch of use cases where you can use it in a way that, yes, there are traditional like NLP, natural language processing techniques to do some of this stuff, but it suddenly becomes really accessible, right? The modern LLMs, I can give it a simple text prompt, and 90% of the time it will get it about right. And for a lot of cases, getting about right is enough.
Yeah.
But it's not fast, and it's not consistent, right? And it's not, and it can make things up. One of the biggest challenges in LLMs is the fact hallucinations, right? If you're using it as your information source, right? Let me give you an example as a person writing a chatbot using an LLM, say, right? Am I happy to put that chatbot? So that chatbot is using a document store as its basis of information. It's using, let's say, some reference material, and it's giving answers to users. Right? And this is a classic, what we call RAG. This is a retrieval augmented generation. This is we use an LLM to synthesize answers out of a document store. Imagine doing a Google search, taking the top 10 answers, giving them to a person and saying, given these documents, answer this question. Right? That's what RAG search do, and it's really great, right? We can now do this. I can, if you've ever seen like the Google summaries, right? Look at the Google summaries when you do a search now. Sometimes they're really great and it gives me the answer right then and there. But sometimes you read the summary and you're like, that's not right. It's just wrong, right? It's misinterpreted what the text is. So there are dangers there. Would you be happy to put that in front of someone when it was important? Let's say medical diagnosis, right?
Yeah.
Dear Google, my symptoms are, oh, I think you've got plague, right? It might be right, but there's a risk there, right? There's no free lunch there, and there's been a bunch of cases where LLMs that get things wrong and have impact, right? And I think there's going to be more cases because one of the oddities about LLMs to me, LLMs are really good at sounding like they know what they're talking about. It's very hard to get an LLM to say, I don't know. In general, it will make something up, and they are really, really good at sounding like an expert. Right? You never get the ums and ers or the unconfidence. It's always like, oh, the sky's green.
Yeah.
Done. Right, right.
And
So
then is this what you were after type thing at the end?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then you say, no, you're wrong. It doesn't. Oh yes, so you're right. Like let me.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that weird conversation. If you think about, if you've ever had follow-up conversations where it's clearly got something wrong, those were really weird conversations because it just accepts that you've corrected it and gone, oh yes, clearly this, no, the sky's blue. And it's like, oh, the sky, if I go, the sky's yellow, I'll ask an LM why the sky is orange, and then keep prompting it and keep forcing it to keep telling it the sky's orange, and it'll keep coming up with more and more ridiculous answers to try and agree with you.
Yeah.
So you've got to be careful. Code generation though is a really fun topic, but it actually suffers from the same problems we've just talked about. Right? Getting it to, if I say to an LM, go to ChatGPT or your favorite LLM of choice and ask it to write you a method, it will actually do a pretty good job most of the time in any language you care to choose. But getting it to work on a larger piece of software has a whole bunch of other issues. It's a bit like this synthesis thing. If you did a Google search on your code and said, now given these chunks of code, fix the code, you don't have the holistic picture. So it tends to get things wrong. It tends to get confused or use a library that's out of date because when it was trained, this was the version of the library and this is how to use it. And then that's changed over time, but it doesn't know. But the tools are evolving. Even as we speak, a couple of weeks ago, Claude 3.7 came out, and it's even better at writing code. And there's a whole bunch of tools, developer tools. So you've got things like Copilot is a basic one.
Yeah.
You've got Cursor. You've then got other tools like Ada or Claude Code, which are trying to look and these what they call SW agents, which are trying to build the tooling around the LLM to give it the code context, right? To allow it to say, here's a code base, here's a GitHub issue, go and fix the code. And it blows, as a software developer for far too many years, it blows my mind that it can even get close to that. If you'd said to me 5 years ago, right, I could go to a piece of software and say, here's a GitHub issue, here's the code, go and fix the issue. Even if it only got it right one in time in 5, that would be mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Right? It's a game changer.
I guess it's all automating your world for you, right? It's
Right.
making processes far more streamlined and just getting stuff done in kind of less than half the time.
Yeah. So this is I've been experimenting with this stuff quite aggressively, and it is a fundamental game changer. I was rewriting a project that I'd written at home some time ago, and it needed updating. It's quite large and it's a bit clunky, and it was before I knew how to do modern web development, so it's really old style. It's like I wanted to bring it up to date, but you're like, it's months of work, right? It's like it's a probably a 3 or 4 month project of weekends to update it, and it's just like, oh, as an ADHDer, that doesn't fill me with joy, right? It just doesn't. It doesn't fill anybody with joy. It's just boring, right? Because most of it is grunt work. So I was experimenting with Ada and then Claude Code, and it blew my mind because I could say, take this lump of code, take this old web page, turn it into a new one, right? And it did. And it wrote better code than I did in Vue in this case, right? And it wasn't perfect, right? It would get confused and it would sometimes get stuck. But I did more coding in a weekend than I would have done in a solid month, because I could imagine you had like a really amazing, fresh, straight out of college developer who's really, really excited and really eager and really capable, but they have gaps in their knowledge, right? So you'd send them off, they would do some work, they'd come back. Sometimes you'd be like, yes, that's it. And sometimes you come back and go, oh, not quite. Or they got stuck and like, I don't know how to fix this. Right? And you'd come in and you'd fix it and then you would send them off again, right? It's like that, except that cycle is 2 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? It is, I think the industry as a whole is going to change. We don't know how to do it right yet. One of the problems with these tools, for example, is they write too much code. If I've got a big production system and I want a fix, sometimes I want the fix to be as small as possible, right? Minimize the impact surface. And LLMs just go, oh yeah, I'll go and fix these things here. Or I asked it an opinion on how I should refactor some code, and then asked a different question, and it promptly went and refactored all the code to try and match the question.
Yeah.
So you need to treat it like an overly eager puppy at the moment, but it's a really smart puppy, right?
Yeah.
And that will evolve over time. I think the next 5 years in software, probably even the next 2 years in software, are going to be game changing. It's like having an entire development. It's like me having an entire development team working for me, right? I'm a one man army now.
Yeah.
And it doesn't solve all the problems. It doesn't. I have to be the oversight, right? I'm the person working at what we're building and why we're building it, how it should be structured. But I can offload a bunch of the work. And that's just, it is, I've never seen anything like it in my entire software career.